state your name for the record.
My name is
don't
Gary.
Don't touch.
Microphone.
Don't touch.
That's illegal.
Jesus.
What a way to get started, huh? Good
God,
evening.
Gary.
Hello, everyone.
You're going to be assessed more on this.
Hey, Gary,
That.
above your head.
Bad
Okay,
things will
okay.
happen to you.
Don't touch the microphone.
I won't. Okay. My name is Gary DeLorenzo. I'm a citizen of Monroeville.
floor is
Just
yours,
for the
Gary.
record, I live in Colonial Drive, and I am the chairman of the Monroeville Municipal Authorities Board. And I had some ideas and some questions that I was going to ask council, but I decided to change my slant a little bit, if you don't mind. It's a late evening. I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly, just to give you some thoughts that you can think about. When I look at this situation related to the MS4 consent decree, it's really a problem. It's a problem on how can we as a municipality, from a strategic standpoint, control pollution, reduce flooding. You know, what can be done? It's a project. Anybody that has a project management background understands the triple constraints. What's the scope of the project? What's the timeline of the project? And what are the costs incurred to make that project completed towards success? Scope ties into boundaries, objectives, that type of thing. In order to go through this project, how do you get started? You do research. Who are the stakeholders? You have business entities that you need to work with, government entities. You have operational environment, the engineering department for infrastructure, people, equipment. On the financial side, cost. Where do you find the cost for this? There's a variety of areas. The citizens involved, the property owners, the businesses. There's a lot of stakeholders. You do research to understand and gain knowledge on how do you solve the problem. And then where do you go? You analyze the options that you have based on the knowledge that you've gained. What are the options for us to meet the objectives of MS4? What are our options as far as how we can meet the demands of the government, but minimizing the impact? The property owners. We know it's a bad scenario, whether it's a fee or a tax or whatever, but how do you manage all of the stakeholders' interests so you still meet those goals? And then once you analyze that information from a research standpoint, you start looking at optimum solutions. Okay? Those optimum solutions eventually evolve into some generalized plan that shows you where those options are that you've researched. From my perspective, I am very, very enthusiastic that it appears that council is planning on tabling a vote on this ordinance because I believe it's too premature. Let's spend a little bit of time, if you can, to do some problem solving from a project management standpoint, scope, time, and cost constraints, to look at options. Now let me wrap this up. I have two observations.
God, Gary.
Watch out.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I have
Thank
two
you, Joe.
observations.
Thank you, Joe.
This
Thank
one
you, Joe.
slide that says current regulations, if you look at the bottom, from a municipality standpoint, we need pollutant reduction plans. A plan is an approach. A plan is a schedule.
We
A plan
have
is a
that.
direction.
We have
Okay.
We have
okay.
that,
Okay,
Gary.
so with that plan.
We do have that.
Okay?
Okay.
You do have that
Yeah,
plan?
yes.
If you do have that plan,
Yes.
that would be worthwhile to share with the
We
constituents
will, but
on the website.
yes.
Well, that's why
We have to wait.
That's why we hired the engineer.
Yes.
Okay.
To give you an overall, we still have to pass the ordinance before you can have
Well-
more information.
I believe the ordinance is a byproduct of your plan,
Yeah.
but that's my viewpoint. Okay? My other thought is, would it be worthwhile to have a copy of the MS4 mandate published on our website? Because, I mean, is it that thick? It's a lot of detail.
The permit's 26 pages. We said that that could be done, but not the
Permit-
entire
the
mandate.
permit, yeah, it does
Not
be-
the entire mandate.
Oh, well, I thought he meant the federal regulation.
Well, whatever the permit is, on whatever the expectations that we need to do
The permit.
as a municipality, which is a permit, I'm sorry, I used the wrong term.
Mr. Little, can we have that put up on the website,
I already
please?
have it in my notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think we could also probably have any kind of website links to the EPA that maybe address these issues. If we could dig through the actual,
I'll also make sure that the library also has it set up as
Exactly,
well in
the library
place, so that
has
we have
this and the senior center.
maybe identify it so it's a little more easily available since it's an interesting topic as opposed to just.
If
being
you
up to the
understand as, on the website or as the citizens, what the permit is, and as we also have an opportunity to look at those overall plans from a project management standpoint, I think it'll get everyone in this room and the citizens a little bit better understanding of the challenges that we have here, so they can be a little bit more receptive to some options that you're considering.
Well, some of the options aren't options.
They're
Feds are
mandates.
making us do it.
well, I mean, I guess maybe to Gary's point, and perhaps, Paul, if your department over the next, if we're going to table this on Tuesday, so maybe over the next month, before next month's meeting, if we could have maybe our top, whatever you want to say, 15, 10, 20 projects that we know that are problem areas. We know this is a problem area, and this is how much we
I know, but I didn't expect.
plan that it's going to cost.
Does our
Perhaps it's
engineers
something
have
we
that
could-
information?
Gary, let me just say this. You sound like a college professor.
He is.
I am.
I know.
I am. All right.
Everything
Did I come across
every,
like?
everything that you spoke of, we've already done.
Yes.
When you say we should do all this, we have done all that. It is done.
But perhaps this is something that
Okay.
we need to
Can that
tie.
be shared with us?
Okay, so let's put it back into your world. It's very similar to the sanitary sewer that you had to put in place. So it's very similar. They're very parallel to each
Right.
other, except you're dealing with sanitary sewers, we're dealing with storm sewers.
Right.
Okay? So everything that you speak of has been done.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Now, I'm not questioning that it has not been done. I believe the observation in the room tonight is, through most of the questions of the citizens, they're unknown, or this information, this plan, is unknown to them. This research that you have done is unknown to them to justify how you're going to pay for this. So if that can be positioned maybe out on a website or positioned somewhere for the community on all this homework you've done.
What did
I'll
the
use word homework.
presentation show you, Gary?
Pardon me?
What did the presentation show you? Not enough?
From my perspective, the presentation, I think it was good background information on the regulation that came out, okay, the MS4 requirements. I'll go to, this one caught my interest on the budgeting side. I can really empathize where you're at on this one. What was the basis for having storm sewer assets of $36 million? What was the basis for that?
That's, the federal government says we have to spend 7.5 million annually
No,
on
but-
getting rid of the sediment. Is that correct, Paul?
But the assessment of
The
the,
assessment of our, are we saying the assessment of our existing system is assessed at 38 million? And we have an operational budget of 26,000 annually to maintain that?
No. That's what
No.
we have now, Gary.
Correct.
That's
You're
what we
right.
have now.
Yes.
That's my point.
Yes.
Right.
That's my
You're correct.
You're correct.
So if
You are
that's
correct.
true,
You are
if
correct.
that is
That is
true.
true.
Yes.
So there's the challenge in itself.
Correct.
For you to have financially.
Yes.
For this
Gary, you're
MS4
right on it.
scenario.
Yes.
Which brings me back, if you really look at this project that you've been looking at for strategically for a couple years now, okay, was there any observation or looking into possibly a bond? Since this is a capital project.
We don't want to go into
It's a
debt for this,
never-ending
Gary.
project. It's not like something
This
you
is,
buy
wait,
once.
wait,
We
wait.
haven't taken out-
You don't see this as a temporary endeavor?
No.
So this is going to be
No.
not only a development effort operationally to put in an infrastructure for the MS4 requirements.
Then you have to
but what's
maintain
in
it.
place? So you're going to maintain it.
Then you
Yes.
have to
So you're going to
maintain it.
maintain it. And
Right.
that's going to be one entity, possibly one authority that's
Yeah.
ongoing.
Gary, you're
For
barking up the
duration.
wrong tree, my friend.
That is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
he's bringing up some good
Yes.
points.
I use the example as the road paving project. We pave your street today. By the time we get done with the rest of the streets in Monroeville, yours needs repaved.
But that road already exists. It's not a new road.
Well, these
And I'm trying to
formulas already
separate a
exist.
capital endeavor that's new
These
versus an
already exist,
operational
Gary.
endeavor.
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
What?
You're taking this too long. You're
What?
making too big of a deal out of it. Let the engineers handle it. That's why we pay them.
Gary, can I explain?
Sure.
if I may?
Come on.
So,
Yeah, please.
okay, the MS4 that's in there, so the 6 minimum control measures,
Uh-huh.
those are ongoing. So that first came into effect much before 2018. Those are ongoing. So even though the permit ends
Yeah.
in 2023, there will be a new permit almost.
Can I ask you a question based on a comment that you made on the, you said.
Gary,
that-
if you-
Gary, face this way.
Face
Oh,
this way
I'm
so
sorry,
I can
I'm
hear you, so
sorry,
we can
I'm
all hear
sorry.
Just don't touch it.
I'm sorry. Did you,
Please.
I believe you made a comment that some new development efforts have already been addressing
So-
some of the sediment reductions. Did you say that? I believe you did.
That's not what I
Oh.
meant, if that's
Oh,
what I said.
Okay.
The new development meets the stormwater ordinance requirements.
Okay.
The 10% sediment reduction is what is in the permit. That is the new thing that is in the permit.
Would there be an opportunity for our new development to satisfy the need on the sediment
Not
reduction?
for the full
If-
10%, no.
No, I agree, but if you have a percentage of it, isn't that a success story that we share, that we're already making progress with our plans for MS4? That's my observation. I know I'm getting deep, I'm sorry, but I have a lot of information that I just wanted to share with the group. I just wanted to take a step back from a planning standpoint, okay? If all this information can be shared through your website with the constituents, and people have knowledge on what you're thinking, I think it has a lot of value. And wherever you propose on how these fees, taxes, wherever the costs come from, people have a background information on where you came from.
Thank you.
Gary, do you list all the projects that the authority is doing?
On our website,
Okay.
okay, we try to keep it current.
Do you
We-
list
wait.
for the next 5 years? Do you have all the projects you're doing for the next 5 years?
We're actually working on that activity right now, Paul, and I'll tell you what we're doing on our side. On our side, we're actually working with each foreman to identify what are the operational plans and the capital budgets, projects that we need to manage for the next 2 to 3 years. That's a basis for our operational budget for 19. And we're going to basically identify some capital projects.
Because
such as
you've
our-
run out of bond money.
That's my point, and
Well,
that's my point. I
Right,
don't know where your bond
because-
scenario is, but I
Right,
thought I'd
but
ask.
that's why you're doing what you're doing now.
Right.
And this is why we're doing what we're doing, because we're being mandated to do this.
Very similar
Correct.
to us, mandates.
But
where to-
you are now having to find out to budget, to do a correct budget down at the Water Authority, as we discussed down there, because you don't have the bond money to do your projects any longer.
We have a little bit of bond money
But-
back, but
but
I
you
get
agree-
your
you
point.
know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Okay, without us throwing this ball back and forth, that is the reason you're doing what you're just saying now to Mr. Yugas, is you're talking to the foreman, you're talking about the projects, you're talking about the cost, because you do not have the bond money free and available to use on every one of those projects. We don't have the money either.
But if I could interject real briefly, because I want to make sure I'm hearing
Yeah.
you, Gary, and maybe what could help is, so we will have, there are projects, there's work that's been done. This committee's been meeting for over a year. Our engineering department's been doing a tremendous amount of work on it. Our outside engineer's been doing a tremendous amount of work on it.
Yeah.
I think we need to maybe get some of that extra information
Well-
out as far as maybe some of the top projects, or maybe like, once, if this goes through and if it gets voted on and we all agree on how to do it, what is day one? What are the first steps? What are the things that we tackle as a municipality? Maybe those are the kind of things that we need to put out there so everybody gets an idea of the scope of things.
Right. I follow you. We're in a very similar situation. All I'm saying is, we're doing, and Paul, getting back to your point, from our operational budget and our capital projects with our foreman, those will be posted. But it brings us back to both organizations, that you have these decrees and these government regulations that you're trying to meet with the resources that you have, okay, and you're trying to find options. All I'm saying from this meeting today, what I've heard from the constituents, the citizens, is that if you can share more information with them out on your website related to these plans, this research, this analysis that you've already done to justify how this will be developed and implemented, I think it'll go a long way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Gary,
Thank you,
one
Gary.
other thing. Yeah, I'm sure if the sanitary sewer mandates are met, years from now, we'll be paying more than you do for a car payment now, just for your storage, right?
Correct.
By the time we meet all those mandates.
Correct. That is
let's
a
just-
true statement.
Let me just make an offer.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. That is so true.
One of our future municipal authority meetings, you can come and talk to us on our challenges with the El Casan.
Yes.
Consent decree. And then you can push it
No,
back
no,
on
nothing
me.
against you guys, but I'm saying, once the DEP mandates are met,
Yeah.
it's gonna be like a morttage to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
We're all going through it.
Yep,
We're
we
all
are.
going through it.
Yes,
We're
we
We are all
going
going
through
through,
it.
you're absolutely right. Thank you.
I'm thinking a whole.
Gary, I just want to clear something up that's in the PowerPoint. You can sit down.
Oh, okay.
Relax, Gary.
Please.
There's a $26,000 figure in there for stormwater, all right? And our budget under stormwater maintenance right now for 2018 is $157,000. Now, what that $26,000 represents is for purchasing things out of operation for, inlets, some pipe here and there, and that's for commodities that's in operation. In the past years, and you brought up the word bond money, in the past years, Monroeville, let's say 10 years, in the past 10 years, any kind of stormwater work that was done with bond money. Glenwood, for instance, the big project we did over in Glenwood. That was all done with bond money that was floated. The last time a bond was floated, I think, in Monroeville was in 2007. And we had bond money left over, which it's just about dissipated right now. Talking about floating a bond to pay for this. You float a bond, $36 million, that's the asset. So let's use that figure, $36 million. You float a bond for $36 million. You're going to have the underwriters. It's like buying a house. Every time you float a bond, just like when you buy a house, everybody is in your pocket. The underwriters are going to get a portion of that. The bond counsel is going to get a portion of that. And I'll just estimate out of $36 million, maybe about $2 million. You have all kind of overhead costs. So floating a bond, you're talking about $3 million every year that you have to pay for this. $36 million and you're floating the bond. That is not, bonds are more expensive, even though the interest rates are low on bonds right now. I would not recommend that to council at all, because you float a bond, our debt service right now is $3.2 million. It's 10% of our general fund, which is too high. And I've been saying that in my budget messages for the last 6-7 years. It's too high. We haven't floated a bond for a while. We've been on a pay-as-you-go basis in order to keep our debt service down. You float a bond for $36 million, your debt service is going to more than double, and guess what you're going to have to do in order to pay it? Raise taxes. So floating a bond is not the way to go. I just wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Little.